Welcome back. This is still The Polity. Right now, we'll be delving into the conversation of rising insecurity in the Southeast. I've been joined now by policy analyst Dr. Mefor to speak on this issue and possible solutions or end in sight for this menace. Good afternoon and welcome to the program.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
It's good to have you.
Thank you.
Right. So let's just start with the basics. I'd like to get your thoughts. This is 2023, and we're still having issues of this nature. The most recent of which was brought on by a declaration of a sit-at-home week, so to speak, not even like it was in the past where it was on Mondays. Specifically, the factional leaders, some people call him, or I'm talking about the man in Finland, Simon Ekpa, making that order. What do you make of the fact that we're still within this, in the process of still trying to fix something that has lingered for so long?
The situation in the Southeast is the most authentic one. I say so because if you check a few months ago, a little over a year ago, Southeast was the safest zone in Nigeria. And today, the zone is now the hottest, perhaps, in the country, challenging, if not surpassing, what is going on in the Northeast, where you have full-blown terrorism. And the sit-at-home saga has been the most remarkable. And of course, the advent of what we call unknown gunmen, who or which till today nobody can tell the real source, the real identity. Is it a single identity, or is it an admixture of a number of factors, bodies of non-state actors and even state actors acting under what we call the concept of the deep state, coming together to yield up what we call the unknown gunmen. It's difficult, but we can deconstruct and reconstruct the scenario and begin to make some sense out of the nonsense. First and foremost, at the heart of this whole thing is what you may generally refer to as a Biafra agitation. It's a resurgence of the people of the Southeast. A good number of the people of the Southeast, particularly the youth, feeling that they no longer have a stake in Nigeria and would prefer an independent sovereign state of Biafra. This is essentially what this whole thing is all about. And, between 1967 and 1970, the war was fought to stop the breakaway of Biafra under the leadership of Emeka Ojukwu. After that, the whole thing subsided, and 9 years after, the same zone was able to produce the vice president of Nigeria in the person of Dr. Alex Ekweme of blessed memory. And it died down when in the 90s, there was a resurgence led, under the banner of the group called the Movement for the Actualization of Sovereign State of Biafra, MOSOP, led by Ralph Wazurike. Wazurike somehow was handled, and then he backpedaled, and we now have the third wave. Many groups, as at last count, you may find up to 30, pro-Biafra agitation groups. But most prominent, obviously, is the indigenous people of Biafra, was IPOB. IPOB became the face of the third wave of Biafra, if you really look at it from that perspective. And is given the flavor and favor by Nnamdi Kanu, who of course I believe was a creation of the state, because prior to his arrest, a little before 2017, he was little known. And he was arrested, detained, and even in the face of many court orders for his release, the government of Muhammad Buhari insisted on keeping him. He managed to get a bail in 2017. The same Nigerian state raided his house, killed some people, and, only a tree would hear that he's going to be cut down and still stand there. So Nnamdi Kanu went underground. A year after, he resurfaced in Israel. And somehow, Nigerian state went for him and after him, and extraordinarily renditioned him in Kenya and brought him back to Nigeria under criminal circumstances. Because when you hear of extraordinary rendition, you're actually referring to the kidnap of a citizen by a state in a foreign land. That was what Nigeria did. Court of Appeal ruled that the rearrest, or rather the kidnap of Nnamdi Kanu in Kenya, was illegal, and therefore Nnamdi Kanu should be unconditionally released. Federal government, rather than use that bright, wonderful window offered by the Court of Appeal, appealed that judgment and went to Supreme Court and got stay of execution. That is the reason Nnamdi Kanu is still in detention up to today. Now, some people are hiding under that to perpetrate insecurity in the Southeast. That is this whole thing. That's the scenario, the picture I am painting. That people now went under it. We read some, immediately after his rearrest and rearrangement, that Simon Ekpa was appointed by him as the acting director of Radio Biafra. Whether that is true or false, nobody knows, because the power of the social media. And Simon Ekpa is presumably acting that he is now acting on behalf of Nnamdi Kanu. Now, he has sort of produced or presented factionalization of IPOB. This is a fact, because there are people who are genuine members of IPOB who believe in Simon Ekpa. And Simon Ekpa, unfortunately, believes in armed struggle. People may not want to face this reality, but that is a very important fact. He believes in armed struggle. There are people I have met who believe that Biafra will not come without arms. That is partly why we are where we are. But I do not believe that that group constitutes the entire insecurity in the Southeast. I believe that criminal elements have also staked their claim and carved a niche for themselves.
So what do you think is their own interest?
Their interest is that this is an opportunity for them to enrich themselves. In other words,
they're under no control of...
You see, let me construct 3 to 5 scenarios now that will show you, at least 3 to 5 groups that are involved in what is going on in the insecurity in the Southeast. The Simon Ekpa faction is there, potent, because there is evidence that he has been giving orders. You just mentioned that he gave an order to the effect that there should be 1 whole week sit at home. And people are obeying. That shows that evidentially there are people who believe in his kind of Biafra agitation. That is the truth. And those who have tried to go about their normal, lawful businesses, a number of them have been killed. Their business is destroyed. Who is accounting for all that? Nobody. So it's not as if the Southeast under lockdown because the people really want it. It's because there is no security. And there is no security I will come to that, but first let me, identify the groups as I see them. I've talked about the Simon Ekpa faction. Then you have criminal elements who do not give a damn about the Afro agitation, freedom, common good, or whatever. The issue is that this scenario offers them an opportunity to perpetrate insecurity. They kidnap, they kill. Because you can't tell me you are genuinely involved in Biafra agitation and you are kidnapping and killing the same people you are fighting for their independence. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. So I see them as a group on their own. Then you have yet another group, politicians. Those who recruit from this army of private actors and deploy them to their political ends. Most political gladiators in the Southeast, perhaps everywhere in the country, but particularly in the Southeast, most political gladiators there have private armies of thugs armed to the teeth. This is a group. There is yet a fourth group of cultists. Cult has become so fashionable, a fad in Nigeria and also in the Southeast. They constitute a group and they all claim to be Biafra agitators. No, they are not. These are criminals who hide under the facade offered by this insecurity to carry out these nefarious activities. And finally, the fifth group, and I believe perhaps the most confusing group, I call them the deep state. I believe the state itself is fueling what is going on. Nigerian state is fueling what is going on, either by act of commission or omission. When you should act to stop something and you fail to act, you have actually committed a crime. So there is evidence that the state actors, the security apparatus in the country deployed to the Southeast are either not doing the job or too scared to do the job or somehow benefiting from this security. Because you can see very clear situation where active policing should be able to preemptively put certain things in order. But you don't get that.
Well, let's talk about that. The process of trying to stop some of this. A reporter at Daily Post has, exposed a method that was used during this last week, which is propaganda.
Yeah.
So what would happen is, using our own region here as an example, someone would say, down the street, there are attacks going on right now. And then everyone within our region would stay indoors. And then you start to hear calls and messages flying here about. So, and when the investigation is done, okay, who was attacked? They said, okay, it was my friend. Then they called the friend. Who was attacked? The friend said, no, it was my friend's friend. And so on and so forth. So at the end of the day, a lot of what happened last week was discovered to have had no witnesses or no victims. But it helped the Simon Ekpa faction, as far as we can tell, to maintain the sit-at-home order, because people believed that there were attacks. Even places where journalists had passed, they were told that that place is being attacked, and journalists just went through that place. So it seems as though there's another method that has been uncovered now, where people share fake news, they spread propaganda, almost to make these assailants look more than they are, look like they are multiple places at once, even though they are in fewer places. So that being said, could this be some of what the security forces need to adapt to start to figure out of facts?
It's all part of it. Yes, propaganda has always been one veritable tool in the hands of those who want to carry out this kind of activities. being a non-state actor is not a child's play. So you need to deploy all you can. You know, you see, one major tool of terrorism and terrorists is deployment of fear. And how do they achieve that? Is by appearing to be larger than life. And that is why some of us who studied terrorism and counter-terrorism believe that there is a symbiotic relationship between terrorism, terrorists on the one hand, and media on the other. In other words, the few number of these non-state actors is actually accentuated by the media through sensationalization of how they report them. That's exactly what we are referring to. It's symbiosis. It exists. It's even necessary for their kind of job. Because they are few in number and would want to appear to be larger than life by creating the impression that they are ubiquitous. They are everywhere. That given, it should be anticipated. Do you understand that? In the last few weeks, yes, it was self-evident that what you mentioned was at play. But we also saw real disruption.
Yes.
We saw videos of teachers and pupils brought out, laid down, flogged mercilessly. Yes, we thank God they were not killed. But imagine the humiliation. How on earth can such a teacher still command respect before such students that were... how do I really describe that kind of scenario? But this will show you how terrible things have gone. In the last 1 week, whatever method they used to achieve sit-at-home compliance, full or partial, disrupted a major life event. NECO was ongoing the same moment. Do you really want NECO to repeat the exams in the Southeast? If they do that, that would be very magnanimous. But if they don't, do you blame NECO? Do you get the point? You can't blame NECO. Because there may be pockets or places where exams took place.
Yeah, so these actions actually hurt the people of Southeast more than anybody. So
it's the people of the Southeast that they hurt. It doesn't hurt anybody.
So
what is going on?
So what could be the mindset, behind
I've
this?
given you the scenarios. The scenarios I have painted here have nothing to do with the, what do they call strategic self-interest of the Southeast. If you want to draw attention to the need for the release of Nnamdi Kanu, why don't you borrow a leaf from what El Zarzaki people are doing? They are protesting here in Abuja. This is where they are protesting. It's like drinking poison and expecting somebody else to die. And meanwhile, the state actors may be enjoying what is going on in the Southeast. Why play into the hands of your own enemies? Why do you give your own enemies the weapons with which to destroy you? And now they don't need to deploy anybody to the Southeast because you are the one destroying yourself. So they don't need to expend anything on you anymore. You take care of that.
All right, but what do you make of the school of thought that any insurgency within regions is or exists or continues as a result of assistance by indigenes or
I talked about political actors.
No, I'm talking about the people in the grassroots now.
Yeah.
Take for instance, in one of those videos that I'm sure you saw, the vehicle that conveyed these gunmen, it was very clear in the video. The plate number was there, and someone might wonder, are these not the kind of things that you would try to hide, to make it difficult to identify who you are?
Doesn't that tell you?
But the question now is, within the locales, don't you think that someone somewhere has seen something and they might not be talking? When you notice your neighbor constantly having some funny business.
You need to get one thing here to understand what is going on. One is that massive kidnapping is going on in the Southeast. The victims, their vehicles, especially some special purpose vehicles like a Sienna and so on and so forth, are usually the top targets. They need them for their operations. So if you see such a Sienna, it's a decoy. is from a victim, obviously so.
You know, but these are traces that law enforcement normally use to get
and
to the source.
Have they been able to do that? All the vehicle plate numbers in Nigeria ought to be accessed in the central database of both the police and the federal road safety. Since that, that plate number was shown 2-3 days ago, has there been any statement from anywhere? Nobody has said anything. That's why I said that the Southeast is abandoned to its fate. The Southeast is simply abandoned, as far as I am concerned, because I cannot see why this level of insecurity will be going on there without any clear, concerted efforts to do something differently. You know, the people of the Southeast, right? First and foremost, the average Igbo man does not see Biafra agitation as wrong. Me, seated here, I don't believe that Biafra agitation is wrong. I quarrel only with the method. I want inclusion. If you want Igbos to be part of Nigeria, make them part of Nigeria. I want inclusion. I want to be part and parcel of Nigeria. I don't want to be citizen only in name. Do you understand that? That is what is going on in the Southeast. So if at my level, I have that level of sympathy, I'm quarreling only with the method. You understand what I'm saying? I don't want independent sovereign Biafra. No, I don't want. But if it comes by default, why not? I don't mind.
What do you mean by default?
Let me explain. I don't want the Southeast to leave Nigeria on their own. But if that option is opposed on them, they should make a nation out of the Southeast. Why not? They can. Population, manpower, resources.
Yeah,
do you understand that?
Isn't that treasonous? You know?
It's not. That is exactly one thing I keep saying. You see, what is treason is this. Treason is balkanizing the country. That is taking measures to balkanize your country. That is what is treason. Do you understand that? But if you say you will be better off as a separate entity, there is nothing treason about it, because you are not taking steps to pull yourself out. That's why I was saying that the issue of method is wrong, because when you take up arms, that is, it becomes treason. Do you understand that? And it was on the basis of that armed struggle that the federal government utilized to brand IPOB a terrorist organization. It's simple. And most Igbos feel this way, but they don't want violence, they don't want arms. And they also don't want independent sovereign Biafra if they can be fully accommodated in Nigeria. Let me give you instances. You see, the Southeast is the only zone in Nigeria that has just 5 states. The Southeast is the only zone that has a deficit of more than 80 local governments. And meanwhile, these are bases for revenue allocation in Nigeria. So when the people say they are excluded, they are talking constitutionally, they are talking factually. But how do you address your marginalization? That is the question their own political leaders ought to have addressed better.
But can I pose that question?
Yes, do. Please do.
What are the legal, rightful, non-treasonable ways to start to begin this conversation?
See, first and foremost, restore Nigeria to federalism. That is an irreducible minimum. Once you do that, right, the Southeast will have legal framework to develop their zone. The state of California in the US is the 5th or 6th largest economy in the world, and yet it's only a state. So the Southeast doesn't need to be an independent state. It doesn't need independence to gain or manifest economic sovereignty.
So it needs restructuring. Is that what you are describing?
I hate that word restructuring now. The word is not restructuring, the word is restoration. Restore Nigeria to federalism. Simple. Restore all the powers enjoyed by the regions post-Civil War. Once you restore, I'm not saying we should go back to regionalism. I don't believe that is practicable. But you can restore all those powers enjoyed by the regions to states. I don't believe that there is a state in Nigeria that is not viable if it has access to its resources. Allow states to access their resources. Look at the issue of a gold chase in places like Zamfara. Gold is mined illegally by individuals. Why? Because gold and other solid minerals are on the exclusive list reserved for the federal government. And federal government is not mining, they are doing it illegally through the back. So you see individuals that are richer than Zamfara State because they are collaborating with foreign criminal business elements to mine those resources to the detriment of Zamfara people. The same thing is happening across board. That is what I want. Restoration of federalism. A place like this, Nasarawa, here, Nasarawa State, is one of the poorest states in Nigeria, but contrary should be the case. Nasarawa State should be one of the richest states in Nigeria. Why? Because it has more than 20 solid minerals, including gold. All they need is access, legal access to their natural deposits. And once you do that, all National State needs to do is to go into foreign partnerships with investors. And in less than half a decade, it will emerge as one of the richest states in Nigeria. So why are we not looking at restoration of federalism? Why are we not looking at that? So if you exclude people, I gave you an instance why the Southeast is really pissed off with Nigeria. They are. Under Buhari, it was so accentuated, rubbed in their face. He called them a dot in the circle. 15 million people, a dot in the circle. 1/4 of the most populous black nation on earth, a dot in the circle. Even mathematically, is that correct? But that was how he treated the people and created the Kanu and Biafra agitation. So what is going on today is mishandling of political agitation that is obviously and simply calling for inclusivity. Simple. Right. And people are not looking at that. The political leaders of the Southeast are also partly to blame. If you give me the chance, I will explain why.
Yes, that we're going to that angle now. But before we continue, I'd like to let our viewers know that our phone lines are now open, so you can call in and make your contributions or ask your questions. So speaking about political leaders, from your angle, I'd like you to break down their involvement in this. And on the other side, when these issues happen, people start to look out for the political leaders and their comments, even if it's just to commiserate or show sympathy to the people. And sometimes we find that a lot of prominent ones are quiet or silent on the matter. You know, is this how do you think this should be interpreted? You know, especially when these leaders are vocal about other issues.
You know, our political leaders are afraid. And maybe even justifiably so. Because I don't think they are getting the kind of cooperation that they need from the federal government. You know, this requires political solution. It means that the federal government or federal authorities ought to be working closely with the political leaders of the Southeast. This is not happening. There is a disarticulation between the people themselves and their political leadership. It's deriving from their method of recruitment. They are hardly directly elected by the people. They either bought the positions or bulldoze their way. So the issue of allegiance to the people is lacking. If you check the issue of political apathy, voter apathy, is highest in the Southeast. Why? Because of what I'm referring to. There is so much distrust. You know, Soludo, before he became the governor of Anambra State in 2017, led a delegation of some Igbo leaders, including my humble self, to Kuje President to see Nnamdi Kanu, in an attempt to find political solution to what is going on. Do you understand that? He is a governor now, but his insecurity is so much so that he can't even settle down. He is trying to even deal with insecurity in the state before he cannot look beyond the problems of Anambra, to begin to engage in resolving the problem of the Southeast. Because charity has to begin at home. But if you look at it, I was also privileged to serve in the Soludo Transition Committee, and I was privy to what we call the blueprint, teased out of the governor's beautiful manifesto, and the Anambra Vision 2070, and other research documents. What that means is that Soludo has a blueprint that can really transform Anambra State. And that blueprint, one beautiful thing about it, in coupling it under the leadership of Dr. Ogbewe, it was made generic. It means that that very document you see there can apply to any state in Nigeria. But you need security to get this done. Anambra State has become such a hotbed. Why? Because of its resources. The kidnappers and all these people will run from Imo and cross into Anambra South, because that is where they believe they will get all the money they need, or possibly because they feel too uncomfortable in Imo. But I have cause to believe that more than half of the problems we have in Anambra is coming from Imo. The records are there. So you will see that you needed a better organized political leadership in the Southeast. This whole thing didn't start today. It started right from the days of Dave Umahi as the chairman of the Southeast Governors Forum. The Southeast and the Southwest, they were working side by side on this idea of introducing regional security intervention. The Southwest designed what we call a Amotekun. The Southeast promised to follow. That once Southwest governors implement Amotekun, that they will follow with the Bobago. Dave Umahi is in the National Assembly as a senator. Invite him here, ask him why he did not implement the Bobago blueprint, despite assuring the Southwest. Do you understand that? When the Southwest took off with Amotekun, the Southeast pulled back. There was a meeting in Owerri, between the Southeast governors, Ohaneze, and other top Igbo leaders on how Bobago would take off. They appointed a committee chaired by General Ebenobi Umahi, a direct sibling of Dave Umahi, governor of Ebonyi State, and doubling as the chairman of the Southeast Governors Forum. Ask Ebenobi Umahi why he resigned from that committee. Because the chairman of the Governors Forum, who is his own brother, could not even provide a vehicle and an office space. A clear indication that Dave didn't want a Bobago as a regional structure. Why? He didn't want to offend the center. He had a presidential ambition. He had a vice presidential ambition. He had a Senate president ambition. And the Southeast security became secondary concern to him. Rather than give way to another governor to become the chairman of Southeast Governors Forum, he sat on it and made sure it was never implemented in his time. But do you know what else he did? He now went and implemented part of that Bobago as a regional structure in the Ebonyi State and turned it into a private army. You're a journalist investigation of these things. So when some of us sit down and look at these things, we cry. Sometimes I can't sleep. When you say people sacrificing regional security, what has happened and produced and yielded insecurity in Nigeria, in the Southeast, is politicization of security. They turned Igbobago into a private issue. Refused to implement Igbobago as a Southeast regional security structure that was designed in such a way as to work with the police. Fully is a kind of backbone, because I keep saying that every security is local. Like what is happening with Amotekun in the Southwest. In Southwest, not relatively peaceful. That is evidence that Amotekun is working. It may not be the best for now, but it's something. It's an intervention. And if the Southeast was able to create something similar, we wouldn't be where we are today. And who do you blame? The political leadership. I told you they are afraid. Even those who tried to do something, you know, some of them were assaulted. Look at the case of Ike Kwemadu in Germany. Yes, he was physically assaulted by Biafra agitators in Germany. The videos are everywhere. So what do you expect others to do? I'm not making any excuses for them, but I'm saying that these are contributory factors to why things are the way they are. But the situation is not unsalvageable.
All right, but what about the other angle? When you say they are afraid, it seems as though they are afraid of harm.
Yes.
Yeah, but what about the other one, the one that is mostly unspoken? That, like you said during the course of the conversation, there are a lot of Igbo people, to your reckoning, or a lot of Southeasterners who believe in perhaps the goal of inclusion and separation, even though they might disagree with methods.
Yeah.
So it seems as though it is said that politicians feel that Southeast politicians feel that when they speak against these actions and these movements, they might anger a majority of the people who have to vote for them.
That's what I have just said. You just put it more beautifully. That's just it.
No, you know,
they are afraid. Harm is political harm. If you lose votes, that is harm. Is injurious to your political life and survival and all that. So, in an attempt to be, you know, in the good books of the majority, they play to the gallery. You don't equate your retaining office with the lives of your people. Even if you have to lose election, you understand what I'm saying? Even if you have to lose the election. Lose the election. Why not? But history, posterity will be kind to you.
All right, let's talk about one of such political leaders who seems to not be held back by some of this. Talking about Senator Ifeanyi Ubah. Recently, during the course of the events of, I think, the week before, I believe he came out and, you know, organized some sort of vigilante system where he even put out direct warnings to Simon Ekpa in Finland, saying he should, you know, do his sit at home in his village and leave everyone else alone. You know, he spoke directly to the matter. What do you make of these kinds of solutions that people have to bring up themselves?
You see, we need many more Ifeanyi Ubahs. You know, I know him closely. In fact, we even work together at a point. You know, so I know him. I know the kind of heart he has, and his intervention is very remarkable and really helping, because the most, should I say, insecurity endemic senatorial district in Anambra State is his own, and he's representing them. And so it's good he's walking the talk. And the warning he issued to Simon Ekpa, well, for me, it's neither here nor there. I want the political leaders to walk the talk. Look at what I propose. You know, if I were a governor, let me build a scenario here. If I were a governor in the Southeast, right, my capacity, you know, as a governor makes me a sub-sovereign of the Nigerian state. Do you understand that? It makes me a sub-sovereign of the Nigerian state. The president of Nigeria is the overall sovereign. But the governor in the federal system is a sub. Do you understand what I'm saying? In other words, you have every right to engage a foreign country on behalf of your people. What do I mean by that? Travel to Finland. Engage the president. Sit the president down with evidence. I don't understand our political leaders. You are a sub-sovereign. Travel to Finland. Seek legal opinion on whether or not you have the right to hold a meeting with a president of a country on behalf of your people in a federal system of government. You will be surprised that a single visit of that nature will resolve this problem. Because, you know, the Nigerian nation state does not care. I keep saying this. If they care, they would have issued a warning to Finland. Do you understand that? And, you know, recently, the former chairman of the Police Service Commission, Chief Simon Okeke, led some Igbo leaders, including Dr. Chukwuemeke Zife and others, to visit the Finnish ambassador to Nigeria. They made a case. So what came out of it? Nothing. That is why I said, let a sub-sovereign carry video and documentary evidence and go to Finland and sit down with the president and ask the president if a Finnish citizen in Nigeria is destroying Finland, will you sit down here just like that? And nobody, no sovereign country will listen to a non-state actor. Do you understand that? That is why I am talking about a state governor, you know, or the Southeast governors as sub-sovereign coming together, or one of them going in that capacity and seeking audience. There is no way the president wouldn't want to see a visiting governor of a region. You book an appointment with the president, with the Nigerian ambassador here, they will schedule your visit. You go there a day or two, you're back, and you make a case. Nobody is saying, you know, kill Simon Ekpa, they do this. No, let Simon Ekpa be called to order. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because where his own right stops is where others' rights begin. Because you cannot be somewhere in the comfort of your home in Finland drinking whiskey. The other day I saw him dancing and drinking whiskey, you know. Dancing buga, you know.
Well, what do you make of that? You know, that it almost seems like brainwashing, because
that is what it is.
He's dressed very lavishly, living very nicely, and then in the same video he's ordering people to go into dangerous situations.
That's what I'm saying. The president of the country where he resides may be vaguely aware.
No, now I'm speaking about the people listening to the message.
It should have the masses.
It should be clear.
You know, see, you know, Hitler made one eternal statement. Hitler said that the intelligence of the masses is too low. Their forgetfulness very great. They must be told one thing 1,000 times. That is what they are working on. It's brainwashing. They know the people are incapable of really going through the facade of this story. They have been told once you get Biafra, your problems will be over. But you say, with this kind of mentality, do you understand what I'm saying? Even if we get Biafra, where is the place? Because the environment is so toxic. Do you understand that? I've often told them, I said, look, we have to be alive to enjoy Biafra. We're not the only ones agitating. The Yorubas are also agitated. You know, some the Igbo and others, they have an agitation, but they're not destroying the Southwest. Are they doing that? They are doing this with style. I told some of the agitators that I'm close to, I said, look, the Southwest is agitating for Oduduwa Republic, and yet they have produced the president of Nigeria twice since 1999, and the vice president. And you're saying you have no share in Nigeria, there is no need to agitate for your rights in Nigeria. What you want is Biafra or death. I said, no, it has to be Biafra or life. There should be life first. we need to have a place we call Biafra. Because you may get this Biafra and there's nobody left. Or the place is too toxic that you may be facing a situation. Look at what is happening in Sudan. Sudan, yes. South Sudan, they wanted this, then that. No peace. Go to Afghanistan. Go all around. Even Eritrea. Problems. So you need to reorientate the people to even understand that, Biafra may not come in our lifetime. So if Biafra may not come in, I'm not saying that Biafra will never come, because I already told you that Biafra can come by default if it is imposed. Yes, if it is imposed, do you have any choice?
Who is doing this imposition?
By circumstances, nations fail and break up. Didn't the USSR break up? So if the USSR broke up, Russia moved on as a country. Georgia, others moved on as a country, including Ukraine. They moved on as countries. So if Nigerian political leaders don't manage Nigeria well, Nigeria will fail and disintegrate. And the sub-nationalities that have come together for what we now call political economies of scale, in following the logic that there is strength in number and all that, they will be compelled to go sort themselves out as sovereign countries. Do you understand that? But our leaders need to work harder to prevent this from happening. I've just mentioned USSR. How about Yugoslavia? Do you understand what I'm saying? Countries have been breaking. How about Sudan? Sudan just a few years ago was one country. But Sudan now is broken into two. Even though they have no peace up till now. Ethiopia, Eritrea came out of Ethiopia. There is even another country still trying to come out of Ethiopia and Eritrea. So you can prevent all these things. Nigeria has so much going for her. We have abundant natural resources, human resources, everything going for us. But we now allowed our political leaders are running Nigeria as if they don't believe in Nigeria. That is why Obasanjo warned us 2 years ago that Nigeria is still a country and not yet a nation. What does that tell you? The work of making Nigeria, the geographical expression called Nigeria, into a nation is not done yet. Do you get the point? And until it is done, nobody can just believe that Nigeria cannot break. Nigeria shouldn't break. We can make Nigeria work. But the only way to make Nigeria work is by making every component of Nigeria part and parcel, an integral part of the whole. This mentality of some people believing that they are born to rule, that will make a president to be in power for 8 years and call 30 to 50 million people a dot in a circle. That kind of mentality. That is what is pushing some people away. So you can see that the centrifugal forces, there is a tear occurring from the center, the center, the fulcrum, and tearing away to the seams. So what do you do in a situation like that? It calls for extreme leadership. And that is why I have one simple advice for President Tinubu. You have to commit political suicide. You must betray these people.
Which people do you refer to?
The political class. For Tinubu to succeed, he has to betray the political class. That was what P2B did. P2B was one of them, but he broke away. He said, look, enough of this nonsense. We need to move Nigeria from a consumption to production. And the masses gathered around him, and he became a phenomenon overnight. Tinubu must turn his back on these people. But if he continues, business as usual, things can only get worse. That's a fact. I didn't mean to confound you, but that's where we are. Right?
Interesting, yeah. Well, you've mentioned him, and I was all going there already, but he is the president,
Yes.
You've spoken about President Buhari And obviously, I don't think you're a big fan of how he handled the situation.
No, it was a disaster.
But there's a new
The
president
man was
now.
a disaster.
Yeah,
A
but
disaster.
there's a new president now.
Sure.
Apart from the broad statement where he said he should betray the political class, this specific issue of the Southeast, how should he tackle it? How should he, move
You know
to it?
one thing that if Tinubu does today, he will learn something. And Southeast political leaders and Ndibo in general will learn something. Release Nnamdi Kanu. All you need to do is to enter no prosecutor. Once you do that, you discontinue the process. After all, you instituted the case, so you can end it and apply political solution to what is going on. There is no, because they are telling you that is the reason this agitation and insecurity,
Will this be tantamount to agreeing to negotiations with
you have to negotiate. You see, negotiation is part of human nature. Do you understand what I'm saying? All wars, without exception, ended on the table, the negotiation table. If negotiation is inevitable, inescapable, why don't you go straight to negotiation and avoid war? One philosopher said that every man's death diminishes me because I am involved in mankind. Can't remember who now. A popular, I think John Donne. John Donne was the one that made this eternal statement. If you know that you are losing part of your sovereignty by allowing the entire Southeast to become ungoverned and ungovernable, you are partly the loser. Even though you may not be an Igbo man, but you are not a Yoruba president. You are the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, including president of Biafra agitators. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yar'Adua approved the power of negotiation. Yar'Adua, when he came in within 3-6 months, he brought it to Polo, Asari Dokuba and others. Brought it to Abuja and said, look, my friend, sit down. What's all this? And ended Niger Delta militancy. Created an intervention. He called the Niger Delta amnesty program. Do you understand what I'm saying? See, let us negotiate. Right? Can we call a truce? Give conditions, all agitations, including terrorism. Can we just call a truce? Do you understand what I'm saying? The army started something in that direction by running a policy they call Operation Safe Corridor. Come out. Do you understand what I'm saying? Soludo also waived that same only branch when he was when he was inaugurated as governor. So look, come out. Let's talk. Let's talk. We are in this together. Let's talk. Tinubu has to do the same thing. He has to wave the olive branch. And I like the way he started. Say, look, whether you voted for me or not, I am now your president. I like that. It's different from saying 5% voters and 87% voters. It's very different. Do you understand that? And we also where 5% voters, segregation from the 87% voters has brought Nigeria. We have seen it now. We have seen where we are. Nigeria now almost confirmed as the poverty capital of the world. Nigeria playing host to three terrorist organizations. 3. Boko Haram. Bandits have now been qualified as a terrorist organization. And do you also know that if you go to the World Terrorist Index, you will see number 4 there, headsmen. It's not my opinion. You can Google it. Just say, Global Terrorism Index, and check the names that you find there. You see that Nigeria is hosting 3. And I've just named them. And they all blossomed under one man, Buhari. And you also know that Boko Haram would have been stopped by General Ejirika under Jonathan. It was still the same Buhari that told the Nigerians that Boko Haram, fight against Boko Haram was against the North and Islam. The videos are everywhere. So, President Tinubu needs to do things differently. He has to go for dialogue. That's why we keep saying that there is very strong need to combine what we call kinetic and non-kinetic. It's not all about iron and blood all the time. The person you kill, supposing there is a chance of converting that person into a useful citizen. Do you understand what I'm saying? There's always a chance. And I told you that my specialization is in counter-terrorism. And it gave me the opportunity at PhD level to look at the constitution of these terrorist organizations. More than 40% of these people you see as terrorists never had a choice. They were forced into it. If they were forced into it, is it not the duty of the state to see if it could pull out some of those people? Do you get the point? Yeah. That is the logic. That's the logic for negotiation.
All right, Dr. Law, let's go.
It shouldn't be, just 1 minute. It shouldn't be a blanket thing. It should be conditional.
All right. Hello. Good afternoon. This is the Polity. Can you hear me? All right. We lost that call. I believe we have to end the program here. It's too sad we couldn't get the calls due to some network issues. Well, thank you so much for coming, Dr. Law. It's been
the pleasure is always mine.
Thank you so much.
Always.
All right. That's all we'll take on the program for today. Tomorrow we'll be right here again to bring you the Polity from Abuja. Do your best to get your calls in. We have some network issues today, but tomorrow promises to be better. Have a nice day. See you across the weekdays, 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. The Polity reaches you from Abuja. I am Amadin. Bye for now.